For this exercise, we're going to go ahead and take a look at how to actually export out a actual catalog for submission to turn in. So I find it's easier to work from a collection. So as we've talked about how to set up collections before, this is a collection I've got going right here. So with this collection, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and filter down to the images that I want to get. Obviously, they're already in here. As I've mentioned before, I like to use collections because it's easier to export out exactly what I need for assignment purposes. So this is just rather simple. There are 2 to 3 ways to actually export out images. One, I can go in and select a whole bunch of images by either selecting one and holding the shift key and getting the next one, doing a quick Command A or Control A if I'm using a PC. Once we get them selected, then what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to File, and while these are selected, you can go in here and say Export as Catalog. When you click that, it opens up this dialog box here, and the dialog box says, where do you want to put it? Where specifically do you want to put it? What do you want to name it? And what options do you want to do when you actually go ahead and export this? So that's what the export box looks like. Another way to do this, before we get into the details of that box, is if you have a collection, you don't even have to have the images selected. You could just go in here and do a right click, which if a Mac, if you don't have that set up, is Control click, and then you go in here and you'll notice that there's an actual option here called Export this collection as a catalog. So I'll go ahead and select that, and once again this dialog opens up. And once the dialog opens up, we have some options here. First, we should navigate to wherever it is that we want to actually put this, whether it's on an external drive, in your pictures folder, actually on your computer itself. In this case, I'm going to throw it onto the desktop because I'm just going to go ahead and use it as a turn-in option. So I'm going to choose the desktop, and then if it's an assignment, I would go in and name it, such as A01 underscore last name and middle initial. So for middle initial, I'm just going to use MI as a short. And obviously, you'd put in your real last name. So if your name is Biff Tanner, you would put in Tanner underscore B. Now, with the destination selected, the next thing I need to do is just go down here and look at the options. For our purposes, I don't want your actual files because that's going to make the files too big to be turned in to be submitted online with Canvas. So for our purposes, we're going to go ahead and turn off exporting out the original files, but we are going to choose Build and Include Smart Previews, and by default, Include Available Previews is also created. We've already gone through Smart Previews a little bit, and we will cover it again later on, but Smart Previews allow us to do offline editing, but it also allows us to look at images to see what has been previously done to them. So that will help me with grading purposes. So once I've chosen that and I've named the file, I go ahead and click Export Catalog. Now, just a quick note, what Lightroom is going to actually do is if I click Export, it's going to go ahead and export out the catalog, and you can see it choose through here in the status bar up here. Once it gets done, boop, it tells you it's done. It probably beeps off some sort of sound if you've got your computer set up that way. And then if I navigate to the desktop, if I go in here and I navigate to my desktop folder, on my desktop, it creates a folder for me. And this folder, when I go in and open that up, inside this folder, you will see it creates a preview file, a smart preview file, and the last thing it creates is something called a Lightroom catalog. So it creates all 3 of these. To turn these in, I need all 3 of these so I can see your work for grading. And that's basically it. So that's how to export out a catalog. Now, obviously, we can do all kinds of other export features with this program. We can export out file types. We can export out movies, depending on if we're using the slideshow feature and stuff like that. So this is just exporting out a catalog, which most of the time you'll only really be doing for assignment purposes. Sometimes, occasionally, you might have some other purpose to take some photographs out and then maybe put them into another catalog, and by exporting out a catalog and then bringing it back in as a catalog to another catalog, that might work out for you too. So anyways, so that's how to actually export out.